Hello and welcome. I am Mara Cepeda. This is Rappler Talk. We are here today with Aika Robredo, the eldest daughter of Philippine opposition leader and Vice President Leni Robredo, who is running for president in the 2022 elections. Hello, Aika. Thank you for joining us today on Rappler Talk.
Hi, Mara. Thank you. Thank you for having me and thank you for the invitation.
All right. It wasn't easy for you and your sisters, Trisha and Jillian, to accept that your mother was going to run for president. And, when we spoke to VP Lenny after she announced her candidacy, she said, mahirap at mabigat yung naging usapan ninyong mag-iina. And we know that this comes from a place of love because, of course, you're being protective also of your mother. What made your mother's decision so much more difficult this time compared to her previous runs?
I think I can't really say that it's more difficult this time. Parang it's so hard to compare the difficulty of this one versus the last one. But I will say that it's different. It's different in the sense that back in 2015, parang it came to us as a surprise. Kaming magkakapatid, in our heads, the worst case scenario was she was gonna run for re-election. It's another 3 years in Congress. The best case scenario for us was wala na, tapos na siya exit na talaga siya sa politika. So back in 2015, when she told us that, some of the people, I think there was maybe a group who suggested na siya na lang maging running mate ni Sekmar at that time. Parang kami at first, tingin namin para siyang joke ba to? Kasi para siyang out of nowhere. And then as habang tumatagal, we realized it was serious. And then yun talaga yung medyo, I would say more dramatic in a sense. Kasi talagang yung opposition naming magkakapatid noon, parang we couldn't understand why. And fast forward to today, parang while lahat namin ayaw, and I think siya mismo, she worked really hard to look for other ways na baka hindi naman talaga niya kailangang tumakbo. Parang hindi siya surprising in the sense na parang it was a possibility na tinatry siguro namin hindi isipin or hindi entertain because ayaw namin siya mangyari. And I think fair naman siguro for us, her daughters na talagang parang coming from a place of love. Sa amin ganun din. So if pwede lang naman sana na hindi siya tumakbo for us, parang wag na lang. But my mother being my mother, kapag once she decides on something and once she strongly feels that it's something that she needs to do, parang kami na kami doon. Kumbaga white flag na, and the most that we can do to help her is to not stress her out and give her our 100% support.
Okay. VP Lenny says this time it was more of a slow burn for the Robredo siblings to accept it. I mean, can you tell us more about that? What does that mean? I mean, alam natin na mahaba yung discernment process ni VP Lenny. So, ano yung naging approach yung magkakapatid dun sa process na yun na gino through ng nanay nyo?
Siguro to elaborate further on discernment, hindi siya yung nakaupo lang siya sa isang tabi, nagmumuni-muni, and just wait for the answer to come to her. Pag sinabing discernment process, it involves talking to different groups, talking to different people. And while, kaming magkakapatid, we are not involved in the discussions, we don't know the details, the specifics, but we had some idea kung sino yung mga kamiting niya, say, throughout the week. For example, this week, ito yung mga kausap niya, next week, si ganito. And if I am maybe to illustrate, para siyang flowchart na may yes or no. So if meeting with person A is successful, then what happens? Meeting with, hindi ko alam maybe if that's really our way to sort of, parang siguro yun din yung pag-manage namin of the whole situation. Na parang yung ending na tinitingnan namin sa dulo ng flowchart, it won't be her na natatakbo. And then, meron siyang, I guess, may ups and downs. There was a point where we thought the different groups that she was working so hard to unite would come up with something. And then akala namin parang, okay, this is it. Malapit nang matapos. But I guess after a day or two, it didn't happen. So parang back to the drawing board. So like for us, parang we saw how hard she really tried. We saw all
Mhm.
her effort. Parang grabe talaga yung effort niya to try to bring in together different groups. And then towards the end, yung alam mo yung options mo, para siyang funnel na towards the
Mm.
end paliit na ng paliit yung different scenarios na I guess pwede
Yeah.
maging outcome ng meetings. Parang kami also to manage ourselves, para medyo nararamdaman na namin na shocks, lumalaki yung percentage na ito
Mm.
yung magiging ending. And dahil siguro updated din kami with what's been happening, kumbaga, nung dumating sa point na yun, I guess, hindi na rin kami super surprised. It was
Mhm.
something that parang yun nga, we manage our own expectations so that when that happens, more of yung attitude na namin is more of okay, what do we do about it? How can we help, etc. And I think she
Mhm.
mentioned also that it was more challenging to my youngest sister, si Jillian, kasi she's not.
Yes, yes.
And kami naman kasi sanay kami na like as a family makwento, ma-update. So it was just really important to keep her in the loop. Kasi I'm sure tama naman na yung conclusion niya is the same as me and Trisha na
Mhm.
mukhang yun nga yung ending.
Mhm. Now, can you take us behind the scenes of your discussions with your own mother? Nagkukwento ba siya? You said, di ba, parang you sort of have an idea sino yung mga ka-meeting niya. Pero I wonder, does your mother, sit down with you guys and ask for your opinion na ito yung sinabi sa akin ni candidate X or ni group X? And siguro, I'm asking this because your mother has been criticized to have been very indecisive, or yung iba parang scheme lang daw yung unification and efforts dahil in the end tumakbo din siya. So, you know your mother best. How tough really was that discernment process for her?
I think I think what people need to know about her is that she listens to everyone. But ultimately, when she makes the decision, sa kanya talaga nanggagaling yun. So
Mhm.
every time na kinikwento niya what happened with so and so meeting, and then ano yung potential outcomes of meeting with this person and that person. Pero well, kami naman kasi hindi mo kami kailangan hinga ng I guess opinions kasi may sinasabi pa lang siya. Alam mo pag may mga friends kayo na may kinikwento yung isang kabarkada mo, and then hay nako si ganito ganyan. So I think medyo ganun, I guess ganun yung dynamic din namin sa bahay. But kami we'd be the siguro kami yung best source to say na siya yung tipong kahit kahit grabe sinasabi na grabe yung pressure, grabe yung sinasabi, maraming voices, maraming opinions. I think kumbaga siya parati siyang may clarity of thought. And I think that's also something na pag tinatanong mo siya, what do you pray for every night? And parang doon parati yung focus niya. Na every time she would make a decision, kailangan, it has to come from her, kailangan tama yung reasons behind bakit ganun yung naging decision niya. And
Mhm.
ano ba, I think siguro yun din yung common misconception na, 'di ba,
Mhm.
you see all these things on social media na puppet daw or she doesn't listen to ganyan ganyan. And I think people na she worked with before or people na kasama niya anywhere actually would tell you na siya yung taong hindi mo talaga madidiktahan. Kasi
Mhm.
she takes all these seriously, and alam niya na behind her decision, ultimately siya naman yung maging responsible sa decision na she makes each time.
Mhm. Aika, can you take us behind the scenes of that day? VP Lenny told you, Trisha and Jillian, na okay, tatakbo na ako. I mean, may ganun bang conversation? And when was that? Did that conversation happen at home? And how did it feel nung sinabi na ng nanay mo na okay, ito na, tatakbo na talaga ako?
Actually, parang wala siyang conversation na umupo
Really?
kami, and then, uh, yun na nga, because we've been updated on what's been happening, what's been going on with kami naman less on the details and more of so what's gonna happen. Parang
Mm.
parang mas ganun kami, and ultimately it was something that I guess Trisha and I just assumed. And then siguro
Mm.
towards the end of the series of meetings, no in-update namin si Jillian na kahit without even telling her na malamang ganun ang mangyayari, siya mismo nag-arrive na sa ganung conclusion. And then to the point na, the conversation just became, so when do you plan to announce? Or mas ganun na siya. It wasn't na she had to sit us all
Mm.
down and tell
Mm-hmm.
us this is what's gonna happen, etc. But if you know her well enough, or you talk to her regularly enough, it's not something
Mm-hmm.
that she needs to tell you. And
Mm-hmm.
parang tingin ko nga at some point medyo napangunahan namin siya in a way na yung mga tanong namin, okay, kailan? And then, sino yung magiging running mate? And then, she was like, wait lang, wala pa tayo dyan. I need to settle this and this first before we go to that. So, hindi po mga ni-imagine siguro natin sa mga drama na, okay, yung mga anak, lahat. And then, kailangan ko
May
seryoso
meeting.
nun. Hindi talaga
I
kami,
see,
I
I
guess hindi rin
see.
kami madrama, I guess, as a family.
Mm-hmm.
So, walang ganun.
Pero na-mention mo kanina, 'di ba? Nag-post din si VP Leni nung isang araw na si Jillian talaga yung parang pinaka-against. Siyempre siya yung apo, and then apo yung bunso. I mean,
Yeah.
sorry about that. And siyempre, I guess mas gusto niya sanang more time to spend with your mother na kompleto kayong mag-iina. Paano paano mo hinandle din yun siguro bilang eldest, bilang pinaka-ate dyan sa family niyo? Paano mo kinakausap si Jillian regarding your mother's discernment?
Si Jillian kasi parang matalino naman kasi yung batang yun eh. Parang yung important lang, even for me and Trisha, it was just really a conscious effort on our part to update her and keep her in the loop on the things that we also know. Kasi
Mhm.
even without telling her na parang we didn't need to spell it out for her kasi alam namin na may intindihan niya kung bakit ganun. Although siya rin kasi since she's in her senior year in college, parang ang dami niyang plano
Yes.
sana na graduate ako
Mm.
next year, ang dami nating pwedeng gawin kasi sakto matatapos na yung term mo. Parang kailan
Vacation
ba?
ba dapat?
Many things. Kasi ang tagal actually sa amin, siya yung siguro malapit na mag 1 year na hindi sila nakikita.
Mm,
So
mm.
siya yung parati namin sinasabi, siya yung favorite ng nanay namin. And kailan ba? I think when my mom ran for Congress, si Jillian was just 12 years old at that time. So yung
Mhm.
tingin niya, parang parati siyang may ka-share dun sa times na dapat
Aw.
parang siya lang yung bunso or sa kanila. And ngayon, she's what? She's 21 years old. So parang nagka-countdown talaga siya to the last day of, I guess, my mom's term. But kami naman, Jillian being Jillian, naman yun the moment na parang syempre, it was hard for her to sort of accept while I know she understood why. Syempre, iba yung
Mhm.
coming to terms with it versus understanding it. And now,
Yes.
yung after naman doon, yung questions niya na, so how can I help from here? What can I do from here? Or
Hmm.
nag-offer pa siya na, can I go home? Kasi baka mas marami akong magawa dyan. Things, kami naman once, kumbaga, once nagsimula na, game time na rin kaming tatlo.
You mentioned na, mahirap yung struggle having to feel like you have to share your mother with the rest of the country. Mahirap yun. Many of us will never have to, deal with that kind of a problem, diba? And your family has been, on the receiving end of the most brutal attacks, the most vicious attacks, especially your mother. And yet, when duty calls, kayong magkakapatid, ready kayo to share your mom again, the possibility of having to share your mom again with the rest of the country. Saan nyo hinuhugot yung lakas na yun? Kayong magkakapatid?
I think, ang hirap sagutin yan. Ako kasi I think, like, for example, Mara, ako all my life, my dad was already in politics. So, I was born 6 days before his first election as mayor. Being attacked by his political opponents was something that I had gotten used to even at a young age. And siguro, yung growing up years namin na-emphasize lang na, it is really important for us to figure out or at least to determine ano ba talaga yung bagay na mahalaga sa amin. And walang room for selfishness na yung iniisip mo lang is your own personal discomfort or your own personal inconveniences. Given na parating meron ka nun, I guess forever siyang challenge. But ultimately, di ba, parang iniisip mo, ano yung kapalit nung konting inconveniences and konting discomfort. And you mentioned being attacked online.
Mm-mm.
Kailan ba? So, election 2015, 2016, and then nag-VP siya. I think after maybe 2017, parang yung feeling kasi namin, lahat ng pwedeng sabihin about her nasabi na. So, I
Ganun.
don't think may lalabas pa that would surprise us or that would shock
Mhm.
us or that would affect us. Parang rehash na lang siya paulit-ulit of what's been said over the past
Yeah.
years na tingnan natin kung mas creative sila this time. I guess kung may bago. Pero like, honestly, parang hindi siya, like for us, it's not something we even stress about or think about anymore. Even maybe to a fault. Kasi like I think my mom would always say na sana pala early on kinounter na natin yung attacks. Kasi pag hinayaan mo lang, sometimes
Mm.
people start believing na, what's online, baka yung talaga yung totoo. Pero in terms
Mhm.
of kami, it's something that we worry about or we stress about. Parang tingin ko wala. Parang lugi na sila. I think at this
Mm.
time kasi kumbaga alam mo yung parang na-practice ka na, warm up na yung past
Mm.
6 years and I guess kumbaga yung shock factor siguro ngayon mas challenge na for them than for us.
Okay. No, VP Lenny said in a Rappler Talk interview a few weeks back na in all things that she does, it's always what would Jessie do. What do you think your father would have to say if you were alive today and your mother is running for president?
I think siguro aasarin niya na, akala ko ba but at the same time though, I think kung hindi rin siya yung asawa ng tatay ko, I don't think she would be in this position to kasi tingin
Mm.
ko malaking bagay na siguro nakakahawa din yung yung tatay ko, even the conversations we had at home, parati yung iniisip, ano kaya yung mas mabuti para sa naga, para sa bayan, etc. And siguro
Mm.
unconsciously nag-rub off on us na paano yung I guess how we see the future going forward. Parati siya, it's a question of ano ba yung pwede mong magawa or ano yung pwede mong gawin. And if there are things na you could have done but didn't do na sana would have made, halimbawa, would have made a difference in making the city, the country a better place, tapos hindi mo ginawa. Parang that's really on you. So
Mm.
siya, it's always in anywhere or in any discipline or in any organization, I guess, that we find ourselves in, kailangan mahanapan mo ng way
Mhm.
para magkaroon siya ng saysay for you.
Mhm. How did you feel? Now, let's go to the mismong candidacy announcement ni VP Lenny. How did you feel when the so-called pink revolution started happening and social media feeds got, been flooded with pink? VP Lenny says, di ba, it wasn't a color planned at all.
Hindi talaga. Because if you will notice, we were all wearing blue. Kasi we thought blue was gonna be the color. I don't even remember, parang the day before, but Trisha and I were messaging her, so ano yung plano tomorrow? Do we have a color?
Mm-mm.
Etc. Parang you had maybe 10,000 questions and you can't ask all those 10,000 questions. So
Yeah.
parang manage mo rin yung mga important questions na lang tatanungin mo. So I think when they told us na parang blue yata tomorrow. So kami, okay, what kind of
Ah.
blue, what shade of blue? Parang no more time to ask, bakit blue, bakit hindi parang
I see.
kasi pressed for time na nga and there are other things to think about. Sumunod na lang kami. And I think late, yung mga the night before, we were seeing posts on social media na pink. So parang kami, wait, sure ka ba na blue? Kasi baka pink. So parang kami, hindi, bahala na tomorrow. Let's just figure it
Mm-mm.
out kung ano mangyayari the next day. So the next day, we stuck to the original plan. We were all in blue. And then when we got to our office, parang doon nagsabi na hindi, all the people who have been supporting you or have been asking you to run, parang pink yung color nila. So kami na lang
Mm.
yung nag-adapt. And
Ay,
then
nag-adjust.
kami yung nag-pink masks. And then parang sabi ko nga, shocks, di ba weird yung pink mask? Sabi ko, but mukhang okay naman. But I think yun parang inspiring yun for us, especially
Mm.
even after 1 week, even ngayon na it's been almost a week after she filed and announced. Kasi
Mm-hmm.
anything you see online, parang lahat yun crowdsourced. The color that
Mm-hmm.
she used, puro crowdsourced. Especially na ngayon, medyo fixing pa kami the organization and the whole campaign structure. So for us, very, very inspiring. And kasi we didn't really expect the support to be this overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Isa yun sa mga, I would say siguro pangamba namin na para siyang ano parang lumundag ka na lang talaga na parang sige, because before kasi siya nag-decide na tumatakbo, ultimately yung tanong din namin ng magkakapatid, sige kung mag-endorse ka sa kanila, sino ba yung may closest dun sa mga core na paniniwala mo and kaya mo ba? And ngayon na parang hindi, you don't unify for the sake of unification. May values that are
Mm-hmm.
really important to you. And parang tingnan natin, parang worth, kumbaga, laban ko, yun yung paniniwala niya. So for us, we are very humbled by the continued show of support na parang, parang kumbaga tama rin actually na kami yung nag-adjust sa color na gusto nila. Kasi
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I don't think even the whole even the strength to go about the day to day and thinking ahead na parang overwhelming yung campaign, di ba? Without siguro that show of support, sobrang encouraging siya for us na parang hindi, sige, kaya natin to kasi kung sila nga na hindi natin kaano-ano and sila nga na
Mm-hmm.
matagal nang naniniwala sa kanya, have been sticking to us until this time. Sana lang tuloy-tuloy and sana hindi sila lahat mapagod.
Okay, Aika. Now, parang after mag-go 1 week after VP Leni announced her candidacy, ano na ngayon yung ginagawa niya in terms of the campaign? I understand nag-organize pa kasi syempre she has to play catch up kasi literally sabi niya, 'di ba, last minute din yung naging decision niya to run for president finally. At ang kalaban niya, mga matagal nang nagse-set up ng makinarya. So, paano ngayon yung nagiging schedule ni VP Leni? Nakakauwi pa ba siya ng maaga these days dyan sa inyo?
Yeah. She tries to be home at least, parang tinatry niya pa rin kaming habulin for dinner. Pero hati
Mm.
talaga yung oras niya kasi even kahit start na yung meetings, I think she attends like a series of meetings related to the campaign. Hindi niya pa rin iniiwan syempre yung work niya sa OVP. Especially
Mm.
ngayon, may areas na tinamaan ng bagyo, parang tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung, I think yun din yung rule niya sa start na kung gagawin
Mm.
niya ito, kailangan sigurado na yung existing initiatives and projects ni OVP hindi magbago kasi yun naman especially yung mahalaga at this point. So at least from what I know, tuloy-tuloy yung meetings niya sa office, I think yan din yung advantage ngayon na pandemic, halos lahat online. So
Mm.
in terms of productivity, mas marami rin siyang natatapos. A lot of the campaign management and organization talagang surrender na rin kay Senbam because of siya rin yung campaign
Mm.
manager. Para talaga kumbaga heaven sent yun sa amin. I don't think
Yes.
magkakalakas ng loob yung nanay ko to run kung hindi rin magiging campaign manager si Senbam. Kasi at least
Mm.
malaking load of the whole organization, of the whole structure, etc. Talagang si Senbam na yung nag-iisip. So, half
Mm.
siya ngayon OVP and then campaign. I think marami rin silang hinihintay pang guidelines from COMELEC as to how to go about the campaign, especially na nasa pandemic pa tayo ngayon.
Mm. So, kampante kayong magkakapatid that your mother got Senator Bam again as her campaign manager this time?
Oo naman, very much. Saka, okay din na, I guess sanay na rin sila sa styles ng isa't
Mm.
isa. And I really can't imagine anyone else na pag-take on nung role na yun kung hindi si
Mm.
Senba.
Mm-hmm. And how about si Senator Kiko? Isa din yun. In a way, parang pareho yung narrative ni VP Leni and ni Senator Kiko in terms of, accepting the offer to be the running mate. And we know you're quite close also to Senator Kiko. Tingin mo ano yung value ni Senator Kiko being tapped as the running mate of your mother, even if it was a last minute decision? Alam natin mabigat na mabigat din for Senator Kiko.
Sa amin, I think ever since kasi, I remember nung binanggit ng nanay namin na si Sen Kiko yung maging VP. Parang lahat kami,
Mm.
yung parang kaming collective exhale na magkakapatid na
Really?
si Senki ko yun. Kasi ano alam mo yung kampante ka, magaan siya dalhin, magaan siya ikampanya, and then meron ata kami, the first encounter yata namin, nahanap yun ni Trisha, yung first encounter namin
Mm.
with Senki ko na medyo prolonged na, I guess, interaction when my mom was running for Congress in 2012,
Mm.
2013. Pumunta si Senki ko sa Naga and sinamahan siya to campaign in some areas. So may picture pa kaming tatlo na kasama siya. Sabi ko, shucks, para ito yung start. And then, I think very important talaga na yung ka-partner niya, pareho sila ng mga paniniwala. Para hindi mo
Mm.
kailangan mag-worry kung yung mga importante ba sa'yo or yung core, yung mga bagay na hindi mo kino-compromise, ganun din yung paniniwala ng ka-partner mo. So, nung sinabi niya si Senki ko, parang for us, magaan siya dalhin, magaan siya ipakilala,
Yes.
and proud kami na siya yung napiling running mate.
So you had concerns when, VP Leni was talking to other presidential contenders who, have been criticized as being enablers of Duterte or, fence sitters. Ano yung naging concerns niyo dun magkakapatid na hala baka ito yung maging kapartner ni Mama pag tumakbo siya for president? I mean, if any. I mean, just very curious.
Meron naman, but I guess kumbaga, para siyang attorney-client privilege, hindi ko na siguro i-disclose. I think even si Jillian, so, para siyang like kung may therapist ka, kung ano man yung discussion niya, dapat sa inyo na lang. But si
Okay,
Jillian,
I understand.
even siya na kahit nasa New York siya, very emphatic siya kapag sinasabing kailangan sa stand na ganito, firm ka, hindi ka pwede parang I think sa aming tatlo, malinaw kasi kung ano yung important for us, ano yung hindi.
Okay.
Parang, for some people, may gray areas, but may certain issues talaga na we see it as black and white. So, kapag parang yun pa lang parang 'di ba, halimbawa kami, it would be easy for us to say anyone but si Mama yung tatakbo para lang hindi siya tumakbo. But objectively, kapag tinanong, I think si Jillian and I had this conversation, parang sabi niya, "Hay nako, bakit kasi si Mama, kung anyone but her?" So sabi ko, okay, kung hindi siya, sino yung kaya mong mag-campaign wholeheartedly na, you would knock on the different doors and convince them na this is my president, pareho kaming paniniwala, especially on issue A, B, and C.
Okay. So, yung mga non-negotiables na ba yan? Of course, that would include human rights, the Marcoses. I mean, maybe maybe you
Yes.
can name some of the non-negotiables na hinahanap nyo for, the running mate of your mother. I have to try.
Nabanggit mo nga na okay na yun. Kasi,
Okay, sige.
I think, she's been very clear on where she stands on those issues, especially dun sa top 2 na mention mo. I think
Yes.
important yun to her, important yun to us, important yun actually to a lot of people. And while it would be a good idea sana to, to grow your numbers and unite, parang may certain issues talaga na pag yun yung kinompromise mo, parang bakit pa? 'Di ba? I think
Okay.
yung favorite line ko nga sa speech niya, kung hindi mo man lang masabi kung ano yung tama or mali, kanino ka ba talaga pumapanig o kumakampi? So yun I think nag-resonate yun, especially sa akin. And I think when she said that, naalala ko nagtinginan pa kami ni Trisha. Kasi yun talaga yung iniisip mo. Ano yung mga bagay na willing ka to compromise and ano yung hindi. And I think especially sa ganitong panahon, important talaga to take a stand on the things that are non-negotiables for you.
Aika, now, how do you plan to campaign for your mother in 2022? What kind of involvement can we expect from the Robredo siblings? Siyempre, you guys are, much older now. I mean, can we expect na meron kayong official position or role in the campaign team siguro? Especially you. You have experience in public service.
I think, kami even, so the whole time na nasa Congress siya or OVP siya, yung clear sa family namin na hindi talaga magi-involve ng family dun sa official work or official function. And I think sa campaign, ganun din. Parang even nung 2016, the most involvement I had as far as the organization was concerned at that time is more on just really the volunteer management, but everything else sila na. Yung
Mm-hmm.
pinaka-assignment namin last time and probably until this campaign is parang surrogates na lang kami na if she can't attend to this and this, kami yung magre-represent sa kanya. And okay naman kami, game na kami ngayon. Kumbaga waiting for instructions na lang kami sa commander, kumbaga kung ano yung next steps. Pero kasi siguro natutunan din namin na over time pangit din pag yung family members masyado rin nakikialam dun sa official
Mm-hmm.
and parang let them, parang hayaan mo sila to do their jobs and then sumunod na lang kayo. Parang yun yung pinaka-efficient din. Para isa lang yung kumukumpas.
Mm-hmm. No, Aika, VP Leni said in her candidacy announcement speech that she is a mother figure for not just sa inyo magkakapatid, but for all Filipinos suffering under President Duterte. How is she like as a mother? And if she is going to be a mother figure for the rest of us Filipinos, why would that be good for the Philippines?
How is she as a mother? I think iba siguro depende on what stage of your life you're at.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi kami especially growing up, talagang tough love siya. Talagang
Mm-hmm.
disiplina, talagang, kumbaga, but I guess yun kasi yung formative years mo eh. Parang yung goal niya naman at that time na, o pag lumaki kayo, kailangan kaya niyo to function independently without me. Kailangan confident ako na kahit hindi ko kayo kasama, kaya niyo on your own. And yun talaga yun yung siguro yun yung pinaka-goal niya growing up nung mga maliit pa kami. And then as we got older, para yung kind of mother that she is, parati siyang always at a safe distance na
Mm-hmm.
always there, always supportive na kapag she won't hesitate to call you out kapag tingin niya mali
Mm-hmm.
ka. Kami specifically, if meron kayong mga problema, that's something na kailangan mo i-solve on your own. For mas independence, I guess, yung focus niya sa amin. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, yung tinitingnan ko is kung paano niya pinatakbo yung OVP. And yung ugali
Mm-hmm.
niya parati siyang, she makes the most of kung ano yung meron siya at that time. We all know na napaka-limited yung resources ng OVP, and yet she made a lot of things happen. Kung tatanungin mo yung mga staff niya kung strict ba siya as a boss, I'm sure sasabihin nila lahat na oo. And minsan kapag may napapagalitan siya, para kami nagkakaroon ng flashbacks ng aming growing up years. But ultimately, I think naiintindihan naman nila yung goal or kung bakit gano'n siya ka-strict. Kasi meron siyang objective
Mm-hmm.
in mind na ito yung goal natin at the end of it. Yung opisina natin nag-i-exist to serve kung sino yung mga kababayan natin. And I think parang siya, I don't think you ever heard her complain na, kasi hindi namin to kaya because yung budget, etc. Parati siyang, hindi, kailangan natin gawa ng paraan. Kailangan may sistema, kailangan maayos, which is, throughout the pandemic, I think kung kailangan namin ipakita how she works, I think balikan na lang natin how she handled the COVID-19 response. Kasi parang siyang summary of how she is as a leader, mobilizing different groups, different resources, and then
Mm-hmm.
abutin especially yung mga nasa malalayo na wala masyadong access.
Ay, kapakilala mo sa amin lalo si VP Leni, as a mother. Now that she's running for president, what's one thing that most people don't know about VP Leni that now you want the rest of the Filipinos to know? Especially, heading into 2022.
Nako, parang hindi ko alam kung ano pa yung i-reveal ko. Ano pa yung i-reveal ko about her. Kasi I think lang, if there's anything siguro kaming magkakapatid, ito mas coming from siguro something personal, na
Mm.
if there's one thing na we don't question, it's my
Mm.
mother's gut, or it's my mother's vibe, or kung ano yung pag sinasabi niyang pakiramdam ko, ito yung kailangan kong gawin. Minsan marami kaming discussions at home on different things. Normal to disagree, to have varying opinions on different issues. Pero minsan kailangan, gaya kami, tiwala kami sa kanya. Kapag when she says something na we probably don't understand kung bakit yun yung decision niya, or kung
Mhm.
bakit nag-end up na yun yung paplanuhin niyang gagawin. Pero because of our experience since pinanganak kami all the way to present, the one thing that
Mhm.
we do not question is yung kanyang gut and yung kanyang vibe. I guess siguro to also give confidence na siya talaga she listens to everybody, pero
Mhm.
never siyang nagpadikta kung ano dapat yung magiging decision niya on certain things. She believes in alam ko one of the criticisms I think prior to her announcement was her indecisiveness or bakit daw
Yes.
ang tagal-tagal mag-decide. But sa akin it's more of bakit mo kailangan madaliin yung isang bagay na grabe yung kalakip na responsibilities once you say yes. She is true to her word. Pag sinabi niyang, oo, lalaban ako, she will see it through until the end. Walang atrasan yan. Kasi nag-commit na siya and then marami na rin nagko-commit for her. Siguro yung assurance lang na she has always been her own person. She will always
Mhm.
listen to you. And I guess siguro on times na, although siguro baka mas makaka-appreciate lang kaming mga anak. Siguro at times na hindi namin masyadong naiintindihan, magtiwala ka lang kasi later on, mas maiintindihan mo kung bakit ganun yung
Mhm.
calls niya or bakit ganun yung decisions niya.
Aika, winding down to my last few questions for today. Should VP Leni win in 2022, she would be the second widow in Malacanang. What role do you think that would play in the palace, if any?
What role
I'm,
being I think
ayan.
siguro it's maybe yun nakikita ko kasi ngayon, 'di ba? How do people define strength? And yung sa kanya, sometimes tingin ko yung strength comes from restraint, yung strength comes
Mhm.
from empathy, yung strength comes from
Mhm.
understanding. And you will
Mhm.
see actually even I guess even the countries with female leaders na ganun yung approach nila sa pandemic, nakita natin na yun yung effective. And
Mhm.
I guess siguro yun yung misconception for me at least. Yun yung naiisip ko na if or when she does win next year as the 17th president, siguro ma-redefine niya kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng strength and kung ano yung whole approach niya to a lot of things. And I do think na yun yung kailangan din ng bansa natin, especially marami kailangan ayusin, especially na ngayon actually hindi pa rin tapos yung pandemic. And maybe
Yes.
that kind of approach and that kind of strength na meron siya, baka yun yung mag-spell ng difference between where we're at right now as to kung
Mhm.
ano man yung hope natin maging tayo in the I guess in the future.
All right, medyo nagahang si Aika. Can you hear me again? Okay naman? Okay
Yes,
na
yes,
ulit?
yes. Okay
Okay,
naman.
sige, meron tayong work from home problems eh. Now, Aika, there was a time that there were actually calls for you to run for public office in Naga, 'di ba? And in the Philippines kasi parang may expectation ba for na pagkaanak ka ng politiko at dalawang politiko pa yung magulang mo. Someday you will run for public office as well. But you seem so sure that you don't want it, at least right now. Why so? I mean, you have the experience in public service. I mean, that's why you earned that very prestigious, fellowship, scholarship in Harvard.
I think, Mara, that's precisely the reason why I don't want to run because parang all my life I've been in the back seat of all my parents' elections, lahat-lahat kami.
Mm,
And we really know na yung commitment kasi when you are a government official, hindi siya yung parang 8 to 5 corporate job na pag umuwi, 'di ba? Parang you can compartmentalize home life, etc. Pero pag
yeah.
pag yung bagay yung government service kasi parang wala yun talaga responsible ka or kailangan mo managot sa lahat ng tao. And
Mm,
hindi ka pwede magreklamo, kailangan hindi walang problema na pwede kang atrasan. Kailangan lahat mo sila harapin, kailangan lahat mo sila solusyonan. And I don't know, I guess even sabihin natin putting the work part aside, yung rule din namin sa family, talagang isang tao lang sa amin yung nasa politika, hindi pwedeng madoble. Yung joke ko nga
Mhm.
sa nanay ko before, sabi ko, ako na lang kaya mag-file para sure na hindi ka tumakbo for president. Pero syempre, alam niyo naman, ayoko eh. Pero para lang yung empty threats leading towards, I guess,
Mhm.
the September, October, pag gina-joke ko siya, para kung mag-file na lang kaya ako, no, para tigilan ka na. And kasi, di ba, one in a family lang. So, parang naging running joke siya for a time. But really, I think, ibang klase yung, siguro mataas yung level of respect din namin magkakapatid sa kind of commitment that is required of every government official. And
Mhm.
kung hindi ka buong-buo na willing ibigay yon, and then dapat hindi ka nandun. For kung nandun ka for
Mhm.
any other reason, or if it's half-hearted, or if it's just to, kung ano man, placeholder for something, I think, siguro hindi dapat ganun yung trabahong papasukan mo.
For my final question for today, Aika, your parents have been regarded as two of the best leaders to hold office in this country. What lessons on leadership, governance, and public service have you learned from Jesse and Lenny that you hope that the rest of the country would learn from too?
Um, Parati nilang sinasabi na combinations of different things na kailangan matino, kailangan mahusay, kailangan may puso, kailangan consistent, hindi lang yung pang-election or pang-kampanya, kailangan all your life, kailangan the whole time na the whole time na elected ka, consistent yung lahat. Actually, dapat ka titingnan mo rin ano yung, both my parents, even before they became public servants or public officials, kung babalikan natin yung track record nila, parati kong sinasabi na yung consistency of the kind of people that they've always been, makikita natin doon. And I guess yun siguro yung pinakahawakan ko or pinaka-proof ko na any kind of or any other position na hawakan nila in the future, kung ano man sila, even before they became known to a lot of people, ganun talaga sila as mga tao. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, kahit hindi kasi pwedeng, 'di ba sinasabi, hindi pwedeng magaling lang, hindi pwedeng
Mm-hmm.
mabait lang, hindi pwedeng matino lang. It has to be a combination of all those things. Kailangan pakinggan lahat, kailangan maging inclusive, kailangan yung point of view mo is kailangan sama-sama kayo lahat. Leaders kayo of the people who both like you and do not like you, and dapat wala silang pinipili.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, thank you so much, Aika, for joining us today. And good luck sa next 7 months ng campaign. I bet it's really gonna be one busy couple of months for you and VP Lenny and your siblings.
Yeah. Thank you, Mara. Thank you again for having me today.
All right, once again, that was Aika Robredo, eldest daughter of Vice President and presidential aspirant Leni Robredo for the 2022 elections. I am Mara Cepeda. This was Rappler Talk. Join us again next time.